Działa.
To jest twoje?
Nie, to jest mój. Tu są. Podłączyć.
Działa wszystko.
Because I don't have HDMI.
Right,
Don't have HDMI. I to.
Chris, this converter, did it take in SCART without HDMI?
It's got composite in by RCA phono jacks. It's got VJ and that's it.
Can we do that with yours?
We tried that. It just did the same blue screen.
Did the same. Oh, okay. But no TVs.
It would be definitely inside the wall and outside.
Yeah.
I can disconnect it. It's on the technology.
Okay, yeah, cool.
I think when we come back to it, we should make sure that's excellent. I don't like it. I think that
You capture the learn the technologies, build your defenses, day and night phase, every night, I'm going to come back and shit back. And it's stop them. But this will depend like that's the game plan. But then when the game is one shoot one of those, then you can go into it like a fire like summary eventually wipe out the remains for trillions of planets and
Okay. I think we're.
and then the option screen.
I did play around with it, but my issue was
That's the exact same. You'll come back like this. Sir. I mean, my kids are like, hey, Dad, Dad, it's family. Drop it like
Mike? Mike?
if I were to say answer this.
Is that coming through the speakers? I can't tell. Should be. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Some, we good to go, huh? Yeah. Okay, did you get the lights?
An hour ago, the last time I saw it.
You ready?
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Okay, we're going to just waiting for a call from Rikas here and do a live broadcast of Click Convention. Bear with me a second. Oh. Hello? Yeah, you ready? Okay, cool.
Hi there, welcome to a special podcast episode. My name is Lucas, and currently I'm in Cambridge, England, at the Cambridge Union Society. Hi there, welcome to a special Clickcast episode. My name is Rikas, and currently I'm in Cambridge, England, at the Cambridge Union Society. This is where the 2011 Clickteam convention is being held. Nice building, by the way. glad the weather is nice. Right, so convention should be being held right in here. There should be a side door someplace. Hello. Oh, there it is. What? Exam in progress? I'm sure this is the right room. I hope I got the dates right. It wasn't August the 13th, right? Oh no. Oh crap. Excuse me, can I ask you something? Cave Dive Tommy was created by Clickteam's very own Jeff Vance. The light is shining through the water, looks especially nice. In this game you are a diver and you have to try and collect treasure or try to avoid evil sharks and the like. Also very important is the fact that you only have so much air in your tank, so when you spot a rare air tank floating around, be sure to catch it, or it will be the game over screen pretty quickly. One of the other things this game is going for is that it's pretty addicting, but I think I'm done for now. There. Okay, fine. The graphics for the game are pretty fitting, and I love that you are a diver in this game. To control the game, you can tap on the screen. You can only go up or down, however, but the game keeps the pace going by forcing you to swim forward. One of the things I loved about this game is that the further you go, you will meet new challenges. For example, to my surprise, new enemies started to show up. The game also tracks some fun stats and includes some great achievements. Cave Diver is a great example of what Multimedia Fusion iPhone extension can do. If you have an iPhone, be sure to check it out because this game is free. In Raven, created by Rob Westbrook, your boyfriend gets kidnapped and it's up to you to save him. You do this by jumping on bad guys and collecting coins, and in the end defeat an evil boss. Raven is a nice little game that you can finish within one sitting, and with only 4 levels to play through, I was pleasantly surprised by the solid level design and nice colorful graphics. Once you finish Raven, you do wish the game was a bit longer, but you are rewarded with a cute ending cutscene. The game does include a very cool level editor that allows you to create some brand new levels, if you feel to do so. Now let's all hope Rob decides to make a sequel. Oh yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Jimmy Dungeon's Escape, created by Arutas, starts out great with a very well composed musical score created by Andrew Riley. In the game, you are stuck in a dungeon and the only way to get out of it is to collect coins to open a door. Once the door opens, you can continue on to the next dungeon. The game has a nice retro style to it and controls respond very well to your movement. This is important because Jimmy Dungeon Escape is all about trying to catch those coins without falling into a pit or spike. Timing in your jumps is everything, and the game right from the start is pretty difficult. The creator of the game, Arutas, did say this is a demo and the levels are randomly spread out, so let's hope the difficulty is a little bit more easier in the full version. Overall, I can say this demo is definitely worth playing, and I cannot wait to check out the full version. created by Slack, is a stylish new puzzle game. The aim of the game is to collect all the keys to open the door. The tricky part is that to get to your keys, you need to change the colors of the ground you walk on. You see, you can only walk on one color at a time. To change colors, you simply press a button and off you go. This opens up a whole bunch of cleverly designed levels as you work your way up the building. Halfway through Intrse, the game mixes things up by taking away your ability to change the color at will. In the later levels, the color will actually change on a timer. So not only do you have to figure out a way to get to your key, but now you have to time when you make your next step or jump. The game is not overly long, and with a bit of persistence, you can finish it rather quickly. However, you will have a great time with it while it lasts, with its clever puzzles and bouncy soundtrack. Is a new 2D platform game created by Daniel Diaz and Pedro Paiva. The game is being made in the style of the good old 8-bit Nintendo games. Having played Oniken, I can say that while the game can be very hard at times, the levels are designed in a way that you never feel frustrated and that you are always willing to give the game another try. The controls are also very responsive, making the game even better to play. Oniken is currently still being worked on, and judging by the beta version I played, we can expect great things from this one. A classic game in the making. Now where can I find something to drink around here? Hi there, welcome to a special Clickcast episode. My name is Rikus and currently I'm at the camera. This is where the 2011 Clickteam convention is being held. Nice building, by the way. The weather is nice. Right, so the convention should be being held right in here. There should be a side door someplace. Hello. Oh, there it is. What? Exam in progress? I'm sure this is the right room. I got the dates right. It wasn't August the 13th, right? Oh no. Oh crap. Excuse me, can I ask you something? Cave Dive Tommy was created by Clickteam's very own Jeff Vance. The light is shining through the water, looks especially nice. In this game you are a diver and you have to try and collect treasure or try to avoid evil sharks and the like. Also very important is the fact that you only have so much air in your tank. So when you spot a rare air tank floating around, be sure to catch it, or it will be the game over screen pretty quickly. One of the other things this game is going for is that it's pretty addicting, but I think I'm done for now. There. Okay, fine. The graphics for the game are pretty fitting, and I love that you are a diver in this game. To control the game, you can tap on the screen. You can only go up or down, however, but the game keeps the pace.
That's complete and one that's not. Oh, it's still starting. It's an HP, so the drivers are bigger than the computer. Or, well, the operating system. So it takes a while to start. Okay, the first thing is just a little bit about my philosophy about game design. Or just anything creative in general. And this probably just applies to me, or perhaps not a lot of other people. But this is like how I make decisions. It's like, what kind of game do I want to create? Yeah, I want to create a physics platformer. What kind of graphics do I want to do? Then I can go for like, yeah, photos. Where to obtain the photos? It's like, I should probably not steal them off the internet. So yeah, let's like check what camera to get instead. And, what should I get when I get the camera? Like, build a photo library. And it just keeps going. It's like the different decisions takes me to different places, but I can't really see a lot. It's like I can predict like 1 or 2 steps, and then I don't know anything. So what I've learned from this is basically that decisions keep me moving. They kind of take me to a new place. So the value of a decision is higher than the value of which decision I make. Which is why I try to just go with whatever I come up with for the moment. So I haven't really planned out any of my games really detailedly, except for trying to build an engine which is stable. As in, you probably, like, Within a Deep Forest is the first game I did which got kind of known. But I can't start the presentation there because it's a Multimedia Fusion 1 game that I can't even load up on this computer. But yeah, the first game I'm going to talk about is Knut, which is, yeah, you probably know. Have you played Knut?
Yes.
So let's see. Knut was the last game I created without some kind of external editing. This game was actually not from the start planned to be like a proper game. It was going to be a mini game for Within a Deep Forest 2. But I kind of fell in love with the Knut game instead and just continued doing that. And suddenly that was a complete game, and I hadn't worked anything on Within a Deep Forest 2. So basically this is the way the game is built, in a really, really huge frame. Which of course it only works because the game doesn't check for background collisions out of frame, and every object has inactivate if too far from frame to yes, and almost no object does any kind of collision checking apart from the player, and it's basically how I get it to work. I also have groups of events that I disable for anything that's out of the screen. Something that was really important about Knut was I had learned it from Eco. I don't know if you play that. It's this like really beautifully made game which basically doesn't have, it barely have any music. It's like strips away everything a game is expected to have, and this still manages to be a really beautiful game. And it kind of shows me how important sound is. I don't know why I closed it. So now I have to load it again. So I kind of try to do something a little bit similar with Knut. Put the atmosphere in the sound rather than the music. So wherever you are, you hear like these background noises. It kind of goes with the place you're in. And now it gets more, a darker and weirder noise. Something very important to like make the sounds feel nice is that they are good stereo recordings. Because if you hear them coming from lots of different directions, it feels a lot more natural. Another useful thing, I suppose, is let's say you have this sound. And you really like it, wanted to use it as an ambience in the game. So to cut off the beginning, this is Audacity, it's a free audio editor. So I'm going to do it again. I take the beginning, cut it, paste it in a new track, move it to the end, take the last part, fade it out, take the first part here, fade it in, and finally you just mix and render. And now this sample loops perfectly. So it's just a useful trick because I've done this like 1 million times for like all the different games in Knut. The ambiances are played in a kind of a fun way too. Let's see here. Should probably head to the menu. Just always in this one. Oh, that should do too. And keyboard shortcut. Okay, let's try this. This is the ambience part of the game, which is in a separate frame, which is loaded through a sub-application. You see this marker, each square represents what screen this is. And this is the currently marked room. So if I move the cursor, this little square here triggers a new piece of music. Or if I move it down to a darker place, it gets a darker background atmosphere. I can also combine two ambiences at once with like this object and this object. So it's kind of like, before I knew how to do this in any different way, I kind of just created objects. Place them out on this grid and just move around this marker at runtime. It's kind of a weird trick, I suppose. Then Knut Stories is like the first time I did like a really, really big project. Even though I had another job back then, I still at least worked 6 hours per day on this. So for my first really, really big project, the most important thing I learned was about the momentum ball, which is basically this huge sphere that just crashes, destroys everything and just mashes down people and stuff, which represents game development. Because to get this ball rolling, you have to give it a lot of force, but then it kind of goes by itself. What I mean is basically if I kind of just work a bit whenever I feel like I don't get this momentum, I kind of get lazy and stuff. So I tried to fix this by having a quota. I should probably skip most of this stuff and just show the last part. So creating a room in Knut Stories was worth 1 point. Creating a sprite was worth 2 points, or a sound effect is 2 points too. Creating a full song in the game was 8 points. And my rule was I had to do 10 points each day, it's like no matter how I felt, I had to do those either 10 rooms or 1 song in 2 rooms, or anything like that. And I guess I just stick to it to just get the momentum I needed. Then I had these like weeks when it felt like really awesome. I did even more, but I always had the momentum, and I have tried to have that like ever since I did Knit Stories, which also means that since then I haven't really abandoned projects. I just tend to finish them. Night Sky is my more. Oh yeah, I should say this about Knit Stories. I actually planned to sell an expansion pack to Knit Stories, like a whole bunch of levels which you could purchase, even though the game itself would be free. I didn't do this because I'm kind of scared of like all this administration stuff, entering profits and company nonsense. I guess this was a mistake. I should definitely have sold this expansion. I would probably have made a lot of money. But even though Night Sky was released after Zaira, it's actually created before. I've been working with another company, Nicalis, in California, and things have taken more time to actually get the game out for some reason. I should show some random stuff from this game. I'm just going to check exactly what. So I want to show a small thing. Let's do giant leaf. For example, this machine. So this is the chipmunk physics that takes care of this. And it's the ball inside the machine actually rotates one of the wheels, which in turn spins those small fans, which applies the forces sideways. And the way I built this, let's see here. So I'm going to show some of my level editor for this. This is how my editor looks like. With like you have this surface, which is the level in the game, and then I have this tile editor where I can like place tiles and remove them. I have a second mode, which is the physical mode, where I shift around physical objects. Whenever I place one, here's the properties, which is if I click this, I get an editor where I edit all, like everything how I want this physical object to work, even load an image into it. And if I put myself over like the mass, if I put the cursor at the mass parameter, it shows what this does. My biggest regret about this game, the thing I wish I didn't do, was this kind of stuff. Kolsund, Serdia, Angax, Alt, SFX. Well, it's like, why couldn't I just write out what they were? Why did I have to like try to make a 5-letter word like 3 letters? It's such nonsense. So after Night Sky, I created Zaira, which is this game was released before Night Sky, as I mentioned. So this is the first game where I actually know, like commercially, this was the game that started up my game business in the sense that I still live off the money this game made on Steam. So I don't know, how many of you have seen this game? I should probably show a little of it then. It's basically a space exploration kind of platformer. Oh, it's a cutscene now. I'm just going to skip it. So I land on this planet with my spaceship and start exploring it. It's based on photographs. I basically, before I started to build this game, I took a lot of photographs of different stuff, like leaves and plants and flowers, and added them into the game. You basically run around, you interact with devices, like this laptop here, which has a mail on it. And for example, this is a clue in the game, which you're going to need later. So what I can do is actually take a photograph of the screen. And in my PDA, I can open the photograph and have the pictures. And here are like previous pictures from the game. I can also, apart from devices, I can also photograph stuff in the game itself, like this spaceship up here. Then it's going to be here in the photos. Yeah. Sorry. So that's the kind of game it is. It's a puzzle game where you try to gather information you need to solve puzzles. Actually, show some more cool features in it. So when you travel around in space, like I want to go from this planet to another planet, there's going to be some time before the spaceship reaches the place. So I have this radio. I can read about the destination, and I can like tune in to different radio stations. So it's only like friends who have composed the music for the radio. And a really like pointless but fun feature is if I don't tune into a channel directly, like I tune it a bit away from the broadcast, it's gonna distort and be like all unstable and weird, and it's gonna have a problem figuring out the name of the station. So it kind of like flickers around randomly. But I can show you some things about... I also have an editor for this game, of course. Which looks like this. Wait, what system is that? Ah, right. So this is what the game looks like when I'm editing it. I have like this tile editor, so I can put tiles there. I have the objects mode, which shows every object, and I can also scroll around to like see how everything is going to scroll. If I like take an object and just move it and then scroll, it's going to shift over like that. Then I can like scale it or just move it to another layer. So now I'm putting it in the background, which means when I scroll it kind of it sits there in the horizon instead. So it's kind of convenient, but the thing is I still had to test like this game in gameplay mode all the time just to figure out what things would actually look like when they animate. And to do those animations, I had to do this, let's see here. Like every world had this objects file with a lot of like, this is a plant, which has a sine rotation controller assigned to it, which makes it swing, basically. Each object could just have one controller. And in my current project, I came up with a much better solution than this. But I can show you something else interesting. Let's see here. I'm going to travel to another planet. And I'm going to do this without sound first. It's actually a spaceship. I'm going to run that. So, I had this problem with the game. The problem was basically these laser cannons. I needed a sound for them, and I had this sound library, like tons of samples I purchased on different CDs. But there's the problem with them, that no matter how many sounds I have, it's so difficult to find really good ones. Like, this is a bunch of, like, cannon sounds from that library. Oh, it doesn't play. That's kind of weird. Oh, of course it doesn't, because I shut the sound off. So I have, like, these sounds. Can you really imagine any of those working for that cannon? Because they sure didn't. And even worse is that, like, every sample collection I get tend to have, like, tons of these, like, really crappy sounds, like teletype. What is teletype? They sound like this. I don't really need them for anything, but I paid for them. My solution to this problem was, of course, to try to create my own sounds. So I have this portable microphone on a Zoom H2. And the sound I ended up using for these cannons was actually just me lighting a match. And that's basically, the match was already in my room. It's like, I just had to light it. And it makes such a nice sound. So the thing is, what I learned from this project, and this has been proven true so many times, the chance of finding the sound you need is bigger. It's a greater chance that you'll find it in your own room, just waiting somewhere, like, rather than finding it on the internet or something. Of course, it depends on what sound it is. But finally, a small MMF thing, which might be interesting to know. The game itself actually takes place in a layer that's invisible, which is basically the collision layer. Kind of looks like this. And all the sounds are generated from these crosses, you see. And in this game, it really helped to just have this separate, really easy way to deal with collisions and everything, instead of try to, like, I guess you know what I mean. Zaira was, as I mentioned, my first game to sell. Steam accepted it. It probably sold like 5 or 6 times as much on Steam as on my own website. Which I learned from that is basically get your game up on Steam. Night Sky also made it up on Steam, and yeah, it's going really well. So I'm happy about that. After Zaira, which was a really big project, I was kind of like I guess I needed a break from like all these 1 year things I did. So I created Think, which is means Fire Nuclear Crocodile Killer. The name is really silly because I wanted to do a really silly game that meant nothing for me. But I still wanted to make a nice game. I'll just show something really random from the game. Like, it's kind of a generically programmed, kind of like, there's nothing much special about it, except for one detail. It's you see these bombs here? So nothing unusual about that, but it's actually kind of, there's one really complicated feature which has to do with the explosion sound. So let's open it. I'm gonna comment out a few events here, or actually I think I only need to comment out 2 to remove the feature. here. Here we go. So this is what it would sound like if I just played the sounds normally. Yeah, it's basically way too loud because there are three of them basically. When we create music and stuff, sound people basically knows about something called a compressor. What the compressor does is basically that it kind of evens out the volume. So I can show you a quick example of them. If Reno starts. There it is. Come on now. So I have this sound, this loop. But the problem with it is that the bass drum is too loud compared to the rest. So I add a compressor. Then I apply it to the sample. You're going to see how the peaks disappeared. They got a lot smaller. That way I can increase the overall volume without getting any distortion. Basically, in music creation, this is used like almost for every instrument in the entire song, and then a second compressor is applied to the entire song.
What program was that?
That's Reno's. I composed most of my music in it. So what I did was basically to implement a compressor in the game itself, so that the game would recognize samples of the same type, and when they are played together, they just reduce the volume, and works really nicely. Next, I want to show you a game that I have finished, but I haven't released it yet. This game is called The Great Work. It's a commissioned game for two documentary filmmakers called Oscar and Oskarsson. They are creating a documentary about an alchemist in Sweden who's trying to make gold. Right now, that is. He's trying to make gold now. And he's a really awesome person. I've met him twice. And he's really intelligent. And the last person you would expect to try to turn lead into gold. So they wanted me to create a game to go with their documentary. The game is done and is only waiting for the documentary itself to be released, so they can be released at the same time. The game looks like this. This is the alchemist. You can, just like in Knut, you can grab onto the wall and climb it. But you can also grab onto the roof and climb that. In this game you have an inventory, which you can check different items that you have and different parts of the world have. And there's swimming in the game. There's a secret path. So, for example, I can interact with other objects, like this chest, like put something in it, which is done by just moving the item over from my inventory to the chest's inventory. And a lot of puzzles in the game are about, basically, it's like if you have a furnace, you might want to try to melt some lead into it together with like the philosopher's stone and create gold. And it's about like alchemy related puzzles. Something you might notice is that the background noises are a lot more dynamic in this game than the other games I do. Like if I go up here, the water kind of changes, but it's still the same sound because the room looks different. And if I go up, like through the water surface, you can hear the background changing, like the background noises. I actually only have 4 ambient sounds playing altogether in the game. They are not these 4, but this is an example. Like, let's say I have this wind in trees ambient sound, or I have this mountain wind sound, and I have this water stream sound, and finally I have this rain sound. Now, basically of these sounds, the red thing represents the volume, and this blue thing represents pitch. So now, through these 4 sounds, I can, by combining them with different pitches and different volumes, I can create like all these other sounds, like a cave sound, which is a combination of these first 2. Or the underwater sound, which is actually a combination of like all 4 sounds. A windy forest with some, combination of these 2. Or wind plus lake, or like storm and heavy rain. So I basically, out of like component sounds, I try to mix them into the sounds I need by changing around their pitches and stuff. And if you have like 6 component sounds instead of 4, you could probably like do everything you need for like even a bigger game. Finally, I want to show you my new Knytt game. First thing about this game is that I changed the quota system. Because now 1 room is not worth 1 point, it's worth 100,000 points. This is so awesome because every day I get 1 million points. It's like 1 million instead of 10. That just rules. But I might as well show you some of the game. Oh wait, not that. Where did it? Oh, here we go. I haven't implemented music player yet, so I'm gonna run a separate one that's just for that I use when I compose. Oh, that one instead. The music in this game is gonna be based around the layers playing at the same time. So I might have like layer 1 that sounds like this. And then I have this crackling noise in layer 2. And like in layer 3, I have this kind of pad fading in now. And in like in layer 4, I have this more like rhythmic stuff. And the way it works is that I can basically fade in and out these samples depending on where the player goes, which means that I can create a more like dynamic music experience than just playing a song. But I'm just gonna run this in the background now, so you can hear some music while you see the game. The game is a combination of several of my other games. You're this character. You can walk and you can jump. You can climb walls, and at any time you can transform into a ball that bounces really high. And there's this map where you can just see where you have where you went previously. So it kind of like expands as you watch more of the world. Like in Zaira, I had this thing going on with the background objects rotating to create like the animations in the game. And I'm gonna go to a place over here so I can show a little bit more of the game challenges. It's a completely open world game, so it's like you can beat it in many different ways, and you don't have to explore the entire game world to complete it. For example, here I need to get to the other side, but I can't jump that high. So I go up here and transform to the ball. Just bounce across everything. Oh. And here are these magnetic robots. I can hook onto this with a grappling hook, but only in the ball form. So I need to do this to survive. Getting up there is, yeah, something like this, basically. And the reason you can only do it as a ball is that the other character can use these powers. Like pick up these orbs that allow her to fly for a bit. And sometimes you need to stack up these movements, like pick up the orb power, fly over this gap, transform to the ball, and just bounce up here. So it's a game about stacking different movements together. I can show some nice things in the editor. First, I'm going to show a small renoise thing, so you know the term. Oh, music. Right. Drag and drop doesn't work. It's so annoying. I guess I'll just have to open it. So I have this synthesizer here. An LFO is basically a control signal. It has no sound, but it affects other things. Like this, if I increase the rate of the LFO, I enable it. Increase the amount. Or let's do pitch instead. Let's see. What's wrong? Come on. Oh, right. Sorry. What? Okay, now you can hear it. I have this control signal now, which is controlling the filter. So the control signal just goes up and down, up and down. But I can assign it to something else, like an oscillator pitch, to make it go more like... I can also increase the speed of it. So basically, yeah, you get the idea. It's a control signal which you can patch into whatever you need. So when I designed this game, I tried out this concept in game development instead. So I just had plug-in stuff. Oh, here's the game world. 1,440 rooms. It took like 1 year to put together. So I have the same kind of control signals here. This is an object in the game. So I can, for example, create an oscillator and assign it to rotation, in which case the control signal is going to make it spin. Then I can do a secondary oscillator with a different frequency, which I, for example, route to scale, and it's going to do that. And like all the animations in the entire game is, except that like foreground animation is based on this technique, like assigning two oscillators to an object. And it can be like, up here I have the smoke that goes up here, which is basically objects that fades in and out, controlled by an oscillator, and then when it's invisible, it's moved back to the original position. Or just, yeah, generic stuff like leaves that rotates. So it's kind of a nice way to do a lot of stuff with only a few settings. And let's see if there's anything more. Do I have time for one, I think? I want to show you how I did the enemies in the game. There are robots in the game, which are basically the way they work is that they have a main sensor that detects where the player is. The main sensor is connected to an engine, which goes where the sensor believes that the player is. I have a weapon which shoots the player, and I have a sub-sensor which also detects the player and tells the weapon where to fire. So each robot are built out of 4 modules, and I'm going to show you how it works with a small test project. Oh, right. Might actually need to do it on an older version. I'm changing something in the game, so right now I can't edit it. So let's go into this folder instead. I'm just going to create a backup out of the world, so because this is the backup I'm modifying right now. So, in the robot, first I put the start cursor here. I create a robot with a main sensor, which is going to detect where the player is. I set this to the radius mode, which means that it detects the player within a specific distance. Puts it here. And then I assigned an engine to it, which is, I'm going to assign the hopper. So when the player is within the radius range, it's going to tell the hopper to hop towards the player. As a sub-sensor, I'm going to do the, let's say, the flip-flop, which goes on and off. I'll put it over here, and as the weapon, I need something that's not too strong, otherwise I'm going to die instantly. Let's say the heat seeker, which fires a missile, or a lot of missiles, which tries to go to the player. So I fire up the game with this robot. Now it's going to shoot these missiles at me. But it's just going to stand there because I'm not in the radius range. I just keep dying because this was obviously a really hard robot. But instead let's say I put a different sensor, a fixed angle sensor, and tell it that it should believe that the player is always 90 degrees up instead of where the player really is. So all I changed now was the sensor module for the weapon. Now instead the sensor is going to believe that the player is on top of the robot, so it's going to shoot up. And when I get within the sensor range for the main sensor, it starts to jump towards me. So now it's a really crappy enemy instead. But it's kind of nice. The thing about this is that even with just a few types of modules, I can build so many different enemies out of these simple settings. So yeah, I guess a lot about the work I do when I develop games is trying to find shortcuts, things that can get a lot of work done by using the smallest amount of features possible. Like the oscillators, it's just 2 sine waves oscillating and just patch it into anything I need. Or robot modules, I think I did like 20 of them, and it's enough for the entire game. And I guess that concludes what I have to say. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Amazing. But, process of getting onto Steam?
Yeah.
Was it quite easy for you? Did it take a long time?
I didn't. The thing is that I'm backed up by a company called Chateau AB. They take a small percent of everything I make, but they enter all my profits and do everything, like all boring administration stuff. And they were the ones to set up the deal with Steam. So they showed the game to Steam, and Steam accepted the game. So when I came into the pictures, there was already a deal, and I basically just had to Steam package the game. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about how it works, but it's not difficult. You don't have to use the Steam SDK to get a game out of Steam. The Steam SDK is only for DRM and achievements and stuff like that. So I guess the only important thing to know when getting a game out on Steam is like follow the standards, write application settings to the application data folder, not the application folder, instead the application's own folder. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah?
Okay. Your sort of focus so far seems to be, I'd say, sort of platforms.
Yeah.
Platforms. Is that where you are most comfortable? Is that where you're what games you're most interested in? Or would you like to branch out?
I guess I'm kind of like, you know, these musicians that kind of sticks to one type of music, like a rock musician or jazz musician. I don't try out so many different things. I don't know why. I really like the platformer, and I really want to explore the platformer. Like, I learn so much from every project that I can apply to the next. And I really love platformers, so I should probably stick to it. Although I create a lot of at smaller events, like competitions and stuff. Then I go crazy, try all these weird things, like 6 shots of whiskey. So yeah, say a name.
Fred.
Sorry?
Fred.
Fred. So you're Fred, and I'm gonna fight you with Cowboy. And then the game plays itself. And actually, my friend, she embroidered, embroidery. Like, she did all the graphics by stitching. So, Cowboy...
Show them the picture of her doing the graphics.
Sorry?
Show them the picture of the graphics being...
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I actually... I wonder if I have them here. I don't have a picture when she's doing them.
That's a whole level sprite.
Yeah.
Shift it onto animation.
So basically, I am trying like all these weird, strange games, but when I dig into a big project, it tends to be the platformer.
Just wanted to say, really impressed by all the tools you're using and how you came up with it, and the inspiration from the sequencer music that you make.
Ah, thank you.
I have one question. Did you use any of the inbuilt editors in Multimedia Fusion?
Only for Knut. I can show you, like, the thing with Multimedia Fusion is, it's the thing that I tend to need big levels that has a lot of different rooms, and it's kind of, I can't copy events over between like all these frames. So the only recent game I didn't have an editor is The Great Work. This is done without an editor. So this instead means that these are the levels in the game. I created them all in Notepad. Yeah.
Was the game written without extensions?
Sorry?
Was the game written without using any?
No, there are plenty of extensions in it. It's like I have like one extension I created myself for like a lot of user functions, and then tons of user-made extensions, which are really great. But I try to keep it at a minimum. I try to, because it's like just to keep the project stable. It's not nice to like add extensions for everything. So I kind of try to only add the ones I absolutely need.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up. Next up, we have Rob with rural fishing, or Project Rural, rather. Sorry. It's a bit of both. There you go. Should be working. Where do you want to be? Near the keyboard? Yeah. Cool. Microphone. So, yeah. So, you know where it is, right? It's just here. So you can just start it wherever you like. Should
just to say that this will be doing workshops tomorrow if anyone wants advice and inspiration for their own games. So if you're not coming tomorrow and you want to upgrade your ticket, that's possible. You can see me afterwards.
Okay, so today, everyone hear me at the back? Today I'm going to be demoing my fascinating rural fishing game. Now what I've been doing for the last 7-8 months is making a sandbox video game in the sort of vein of The Sims, Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing, etc. because it's what I like doing. However, it's going to be a big project to get every single feature done with this big sandbox project. So I've created this rural fishing spin-off, essentially, which demonstrates one of the bigger functions. So Matt, if you'd like to snap that off. I'll just take a second. Okay, here we go. So yeah, it's got it. So I did play around with making it real time first of all, because I like the idea of having sort of a real time world. But this ultimately didn't really work because the seasons don't flow quite as well. So it's actually on its own time. So it's got so the game is a second of real life is a minute in the game's world, which means of course that 1 hour in the game world is 60 seconds. And so the seasons rotate, and you have different temperatures, different weather effects, and everything sort of affects the other. For example, if it rains, as it probably will do today, the fish will bite at increased rate. If the wind is low, that affects the fishing, and it affects the objects, and also the foliage, which you might be able to see, is all dynamic, and any object that comes into effect into, if you want to run through the bushes there, that might be good. Everything that comes into sort of collision with the main character or any other character or the dog or anything else also rushes around. So yeah, what have we got on this? I mean, this is mostly a demonstration of the engine with the cursor, because it's still far from finished. Rural fishing should be out by Christmas, not before, no chance. But it's a good way for me to keep my motivation up, keep releasing things, but also not wait 3 years to finish this very, very large project indeed. So if you want to run around and I will show some of the features. So I've got, as you can see in the top right, we've got the, in the top right we've got the clock. Now what I found is because the game time is sped up for real time, you'll see the minute hand fades in and out. Now I used to have it going like a stopwatch, and this is very much a game about that I hope to capture a certain sort of peaceful atmosphere and sort of create like a world in and of itself. And what I found was that the clock just going, sort of cutting down all the time, just didn't really give it a peaceful feeling. So I decided on this fade function, which hopefully does the job. And we've got various AI things going on at the moment. We've got some various insects. I have had to disable the wind effects, unfortunately, because it's not working at the moment, but usually I'll have leaves falling from the trees. There's 360 degrees wind that can change on the dime, and that affects things like if fish float and things like that. And so now you can see, of course, you may notice that it's not very colourful at the moment, and that's because it's an overcast day, which means it will rain, you can tell. Like so. You have different levels of saturation and different levels of brightness for time of day and things like that. And a lot of this, I'm pretty convinced, won't be noticed consciously. But I'm very keen to sort of create a world that people are going to sort of half realise behind the scenes. So, for example, the stars. You only ever glimpse the sky in reflections in the various water sources. But the stars rotate seasonally and new constellations pop up and things like that. They rotate over the night. You've got the sun and the moon, which each day, of course, is different depending on the season, the day of the season. Different in time length, so longer days of summer, shorter winter, of course. And so you'll see that the sun and the moon will move sort of with relation to that. So it'll always set at the right time and rise at the right time. Now, I'm pretty convinced this is stuff that a lot of people just won't notice, especially things like the constellations and stuff. But I do think it's important to kind of give that feeling of being sort of a real world behind the scenes, which is what I kind of want to do with this. We've got little effects here. Now, what I really want to do with this game is, because I'm making it very sort of kid-friendly, I guess. If I'd say that's probably my primary audience, because I want to kind of get to tell a lot of stories, like children's illustration. I don't know about you, but when I read picture books as a child, the most interesting things for me were always the backgrounds, not what was happening with the immediate storyline. So we've got things that are never explained and never elaborated on in this game. So you've got a little, I'll give some examples, we've got that little doorway in the cliff there, which will nothing will ever happen with that, but it's just a little touch. You've got a scarecrow, which, spoilers, but it just occasionally, 1 or 2 years time or whatever, its facial expression will just like change by, you know, like a couple of pixels or whatever and things like that. And people hopefully read their own little stories into that. We've got many touches like that, but I don't really want to point them all out. So let's actually do some questions. So this is the wheel screen. I've got a catapult there, a fishing rod, of course, Multimedia Fusion 2, which is essential to the game. And we've got an early version of Anders' flocking extension that was running with effect of those fish. So there's the sun, you see it's kind of going from east to west at times. I have disabled the clouds because I just didn't think it looked very nice overcast to do with them. I'll show you that, especially with the stars. So if you want to show some of the current off, if you could sort of cast into that. It's got a very dynamic camera, this game. I can switch it to different characters, things like cutscenes and sort of events going on in the village. But what's also handy is if a point of interest comes along, like a butterfly or a duck or something, it will momentarily switch to that just to have a look at it in between you and the character. It will just sort of flick a point of interest, so it gives it sort of a lively feeling. Now, what I've done here, as you can see, there are 3 different types of fish. There are those you find in streams and rivers, which are the lock-in sort of swarming type. There's the lake-based. If we run down to the lake, now I haven't done the lake graphics yet. Unfortunately, there it is. I've lead you on the lake. Let's walk on water for a while. Just walk over, go for it. Yeah, that's it. So that's not done at all. See, I've done the sort of rising and the lowering of it. Just stay still for a second. Go up a bit. You see, so I've done the rising over it, but I haven't done the actual item of the fish there. So we go up here, so I put some sort of lake fish up on the bottom of the river. But we should be able to try and catch. I don't mind that, that's in predator pistol. See how it goes. Could be a few times. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you've got a line tension thing. This obviously is graphic just counts for the moment. You've got a line tension thing. Okay, so, that you've got to battle against. You've got to bring down the stamina of the fish. And if you manage to complete it. And as with many of these games, you can collect insects and fish to sort of create a sort of an album of the completed court. One final thing that I'm quite happy with, and thank you to later for this, is we've got, I've got an up and running letterbox system where people who own the game can, via my website, can just send, go up to the house can send each other letters and parcels as well. And it's quite simple, it's easy to do this on PC compared to consoles. So they'll just send each other letters and sort of things like that, packages with rare items and whatever else they want to do with the use, which is what I'm saying with you mostly. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. So I don't want to bring too much like online components to it because it's very much like a solitary existence. And as you can see, there's a lot of things, shadows, outcome, things like that. But yeah, I reckon this small little demonstration of the rural engine being rural fishing will probably be done at Christmas time. We've got the bees there as well, which I'm quite happy with. Again, thanks to the flocking extension. And that's it. It's the moment. Any questions?
How long have you been working on it?
Well, I got the idea about 2 years ago when I started, and I really only started using multimedia fusion to properly. I was making tiny projects, and like a lot of people I'm sure have a big folder of prototypes that never get anywhere, of course. And so, yeah, I'd say this iteration, like 7 months. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't shown, like the inventory and stuff. It's just, I don't think it's very, I mean, it's sort of gaming stuff, you know, like the storage and the internals. But I don't know, I kind of want to show more about things of the atmosphere, the sounds and things like that. Chris?
Robert, listen, a lot of incredible detail in there on your seasons and you know, your weather engine. Have you thought of like maybe adding solar activity to affect the weather? I'm just messing with you, man.
Okay, I did wonder. I kind of like it to be timeless, really. As you know, as like the world's burning outside the window, I'd like to still be in the fields.
Awesome stuff.
But the sunlight certainly does affect things, how much sun you get. There's a lot of stuff that I don't ever want to make explicit, like the temperature in the world. I want to have as little display as possible. So, for example, if you want to know whether it's raining the next day, if it's a red sky the previous night, then of course it will be a nice day the next day. If it's perfectly blue, well, it will be raining the next day. Incidentally, the temperature, which affects a lot of game mechanics, will only be told by the characters and the other characters' animals' breath. So if it's cold, you can see the breath there. Go to the roof now if you want to catch a certain time. Yes?
But basically, because I was wondering about those cups of smoke, if they were like that the character was actually smoking.
Yeah, it needs some work.
I know, I didn't diss it actually, because I really liked it. I guessed it was the breath, but when I saw it, what I realized, and I don't want to promote smoking, but it would fit really well into the game if the character was smoking all the time.
Well, as it happens, that character doesn't, but there are a few. There is one actually. There are 2 characters that do. Because I'm kind of, I can just talk about making it really. And you have you have to be so careful. Like if you get a bottle of wine and add it to tea, you know, alcohol references and things like that. It's quite but there is smoking in the game. That's so that's something I suppose. But yes, that's very teaching.
Is it going to be a freeware game or a commercial game?
Yes, that's a good question. It's something that I think a lot of people sort of wonder about their games. I guess to a certain point you think I spent on this. Maybe I should try and get something back for it. This game, Rural Fishing, absolutely not. No, it will be completely free. One thing about the online component, because that's going to cost some money, I don't know whether just put it into the main game with the letterbox, etc. But this is going to be free because I think it'll help. It'll be something that everyone can play, and I kind of want everyone to be able to play it because a lot of people are going to have credit cards or whatever. So it's going to be free. And then the main game, the aim is for that to be free, and for there to be microtransactions to sort of add to it, down the road, whatever. But I don't know. I get paid doing other stuff. I'm kind of rather just have this how I want it, just release it for everyone to play. Apologies to any capitalists. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
There you go. That should be it.
Wouldn't do it for me.
Not to touch.
Okay, next we have Matt and Chateau with the Stone Goose extensions.
Yeah,
The computer? Yeah. I hope I don't break it this time.
that's not big.
Yep, the switch is on the top.
Oh.
Just in case. Okay, thanks. Are you talking or just presenting?
I'm going to talk later.
Okay, so for the benefit of those who don't know me, I'm Matt, and you've obviously met hi before. We're going to talk about the Stone Goose extensions, which, well, is a collection of extensions, the OpenGL extensions, and there's a very small extension at the end, is the level loader, which, well, the two extensions themselves seem to unify how I think people should use multimedia fusion correctly. So starting with this example of the Stone Goose extension, we've got an object array here, and the extension itself is built of basic objects, and the user will build a 3D game from simple objects. The first object we have here is well, I call it a backdrop object. It's an efficient object in the sense that you cannot adjust it after it's placed in the level, and that's it. You can't do it. This is just a simple surface object. You can change the size of it. There are things like the texture scale, so you can have a repeating scale. And if you're wondering, this camera here is, well, you can move it around. It's got two different forms of camera. You can either set the position and orientation of the camera manually, or in this sense, we have a look-at system where you say, well, I want my camera to be at this position, I want to look at the center of this object or this position, and it will look at it for you, which is very helpful when we move on to the next. Okay, go through this bit. There we go. This, in the same vein as the simple backdrop, we have a backdrop cube. You can set this will only allow you to set one texture on it, because sometimes it's useful just to be able to say, you want to create something and the textures are the same on all sides. So that's just a quick object for you. And we have the multi-textured object. You can set textures on any side you like. If you don't want to texture on one of the sides, you just don't set it and it won't render. All of these backdrop objects are rendered to a display list, so hopefully that's an efficient way to do it. We've seen significant performance increases over time from, I think I started sometime in 2009, I think. Sometime in 2009. And we've tried it on like Intel chips and it would fall over, but we seem to be getting reasonable performance now. And the next set of objects are identical, but they're active in the sense you can move them around. Here I'm setting the pitch, I think. Setting the pitch of the object and increasing it over time, so you can see that it's actually changing its orientation. And that will happen for the next two objects as well, which is the simple cube and multi-texture cube. Then I think we have what I call 3D sprites, even though I don't think that's probably a technical term. It's a surface which always faces the camera. Maybe you've got a simple tree. It doesn't look like it's rotating, but it is, as in the camera is sort of moving around the sprite here. And we have multi-directional sprites, so you want a sprite that looks in a particular direction. We have an 8-directional sprite here, which I think looks very nice. The direction is automatically calculated for you, so this lever on a bike is looking, the direction is sort of, if you see there's an arrow, it's looking in that direction, and you can set his looking direction, and the correct texture is automatically selected for you using the same angles that you're used to in Multimedia Fusion, i.e. pointing to the right is angle 0, and it goes round anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise? Yes. Yeah. And finally we have models, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to see, because seeing, building up a level from just blocks does sort of promote a particular style. I know a lot of people would want to use models. Yeah, and that's the 9 basis objects I would expect a game to be made of. So I let higher loose with these objects to see what we can come up with, and this is the result. So I've got a bit of it's got these nice towers on the outside. He's managed to code the walls himself, so the objects are literally sort of sitting on the play area. They just move and they're automatically rendered for you. The entire game itself is coded in a top-down view. Everything's just coded in a top-down view with normal objects, and they're rendered in OpenGL for you. We've, as you can see, there was a. Can you turn that around? Oh, by the window, there are 2 objects sitting by the window, and this welcome mat as well. Sometimes you want to layer objects on top of each other, and it has the ability to set a layer, because if you have these objects on the same layer, they'll sort of conflict and you'll get all these sort of rendering artifacts. So you can set the layer of these objects. We've got a plane model here. You might have noticed, oh, we've got my shiny, shiny satellite dip up there. Which is, we tried this on my laptop earlier. It's a very sort of lightweight, almost Netflix device, and it was running okay. I wouldn't want to play the game at that frame rate, but it was still running, and I'm quite surprised by that because it has a really high cooling temperature in it, and Intel's fair well. Yeah, so as you can see, he's set the Y position of these surface objects here, so he's made a ceiling. We've got for the walls, because you don't want the polygons sort of overlap because you get artifacts when that happens. So what we tend to do is divide a cube up into triangles. So you say, well, I have a multi-texture cube here, I'm going to set the north face to this texture, and I'm going to use that for these walls. And that's the basic principle behind this extension. So there are a few advanced features there. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions about does it support this, that, and the other. It doesn't currently support shadowing. You might be worried that you can only make like 2.5D games, but I mean it's OpenGL. You can set all of the positioning. So in this case, we've got things flying through the air because I mean the code is equivalent. You're just coding it twice. So you're coding it sort of a side view and a top-down view. And very limited collision detection at the moment because we're relying on Multimedia Fusion to do the collision detection. So as you can see in this case, we've got a top-down view game. We do all of the collision detection based on the position of backdrop objects or active objects, so that's what you need. And this dimension has to be tested using like simple box collision, and that's what I'm doing in this example. In this example, you might be very similar to Mode 7, except it will do all of the sort of, white sourcing for you, all of the occlusion testing, that sort of thing. I've got a calculation, as you can see, this liberal sprite here. is rendered at the correct size it should be, so it's real size, and you're able to calculate how far the camera should be from that sprite to make it the correct size, and you can see that the sprite standing next to it has also the same scale, and it scales relatively to the distance we've got the sprite on the right here, which is in the same scale. I've got 2D graphics, so I've got the background, which is rendered behind the scene. You've then got the 3D scene rendered on top of it, and then you have like all of your game elements and stuff up there. That's what you need. It doesn't currently support rendering text, but that will be added because I think it's necessary. We're going to show you how we would build up a level.
Yeah, I want to make a game in this, and you're going to explain me just how I'm going to do that, because I don't know anything about 3D. So you got something here with some pre-made things, and when I play it now, nothing happens. So I want to know how I'm going to load a model.
Well, you'll go to the OpenGL milkshake model object.
Yeah.
And you'll add the object, the models that you want to render.
And then?
Now, at the moment, the system is using qualifiers and active objects, which might not be the ideal solution. I've considered using placeholder objects instead, so they are objects which have they don't actually do anything themselves, they just have spaces for the properties that you need to define these objects. But in this case, we have active objects, and you'll see that you can look at the qualifiers. One more. Sorry. See that you can't see which one. That's there. Not that one. The tank, please. So yeah, this is of an particular qualifier, which means it's a model object and it has associated alternate values. So we'll go into the values and we'll set the model name to the name we've imported.
Yeah.
And you see you've got roll pitch, all that sort of thing, x offset, y offset, z offset, and you've got also the scaling, because it's quite hard to be consistent with these things. You see we've got a modeling scheme. The movement's already pre-programmed, and I wouldn't expect people to code their own movement, even though I think it's quite simple. You need to make sure that you're using floating point values, because it can look quite jittery if you don't. But I would expect to write a lot of examples for this. So we have a tank.
Yeah, we have a tank. Now I want to build a level or something.
Okay, so you want a floor or something?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah.
Just an active object. And I want a texture on it.
You will add a texture to the texture bank, which is I should probably mention that all of these main extensions, the Milkshake 3D extension, the Advanced Lighting extension was coded by Min, and he has ceased development on these, but I have the source code and I'm now maintaining them. So there should be updates for it in the future. I've already updated the model object because it was interfering with the lighting settings. So I was going to produce one of these marvelous graphics real time and texture a floor object for you.
Sorry, who was it who did the ground?
Min, I think.
Oh, Min.
Yeah, so here we go. So it sent me all the source code and stuff, and since the region above coded, so I was thinking as we use that, it sort of fits the model I want, so might as well use it. Including the basic look as well, the actual OpenGL context is coded by Min. Although there have been a few I know Lucky made his own at one point. There you go.
It's starting to look like something. Now I want walls.
Okay, so you want walls, you're going to use a textured cube, a multi-textured cube, and you can set the texture on the side, the appropriate side, for your rules. And I would suggest using one side at a time.
Can you just use a single image with the middle cutout?
That's why I don't understand.
But maybe it's creating a number of blocks around the side. Can you just create one image, take out the middle?
Yeah, you can make one longer if you wanted.
Yeah.
It's just people sort of build up levels with sort of basic objects, so that's just the. I mean, this is very regular, but you're not always going to sort of form regular size groups and stuff.
And now I want to use a sprite.
You want a sprite?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would find a sprite object. It's in the group. I'm sure group it's in. There should be a list of this somewhere. It's probably one of the pitfalls of this system is that you have active objects which have, they have no property set up, and then you have to remember which one's which, because you have to label them and you have to add it to the correct qualifier and all this sort of stuff. So I think it's good for one reason, because I mean, that was a game shown earlier with an isometric movement. You could literally use that, those objects to represent a level. But if we were to use sort of placeholder objects, you'd have to use specific objects. Although you have the benefit of the preloaded values and the type. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes. Wow. Well, it's almost a game. Thanks.
Okay, I was going to talk about the level a little bit. I'll just say a few words about that. I won't demonstrate it. We've got the create object by name extension, which has now been released. And I thought, well, why people are writing their own level editors and this sort of thing, because people don't want to duplicate events. So I thought, well, why not make an object that exports the position, location, name, and values of all of the objects in the level to a file, and as a capability of loading them back in with a few events. I think it's about 3 events you can load from those levels, and it will generate the create object events for you. And I just thought that was an example. Are there any questions?
But can you put 2D stuff on 3D world? So you can put like a photo.
Yeah. We had that example earlier with the spinning guy on the bike, and there was that graphic at the top was an image plate on top.
Right. This is available now?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm not happy with it yet. It needs some work, I think. I think it can be more efficient.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but what's the overall game plan for your set of objects? What are you going to do with it?
What am I going to do with it? Well, I'm a programmer, and I'm really sort of, I don't know why I'm doing it, to be honest. I'm not satisfying a game idea. That's the thing.
Oh, the way we work is I want something really complicated, and then you make it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.